If you clicked on this video, there's a good chance you were a kid when the original Nickelodeon's Rugrats was on air. I know I was. And at the time, this show was hands down my favorite TV show, with Rugrats in Paris being my favorite movie. Age-wise, I was still in the single digits when the show was premiering episodes for the original series. I was even young enough to appreciate Rugrats All Grown Up when it aired. The theme song was a banger, and I enjoyed the concept of the babies being older, facing new challenges. I even had the All Grown Up episode, Susie Sings the Blues, on the My Video Now portable video player, if you remember those.
Video Now. You could watch your favorite shows on your own personal video disc player.
I want my video now.
At the time, I was pretty immersed in the show and could watch it over and over without it losing its appeal. The show was made for that. It was episodic, colorful, and had simple plots that wrapped up at the end of every episode. Fast forward to high school when streaming came out. I went back to watch it, but I remember not enjoying it as much, maybe watching 2 or 3 episodes before losing interest. I remember feeling my appreciation for the show would never disappear, but the entertainment value for me had dropped. The episode's concepts no longer felt as big as they did when I was a kid. The idea of large adventures seen through the eyes of toddlers didn't really resonate with me anymore, and the show started feeling sort of empty for me. I left the show alone for a while. I went to college, graduated, experienced relationships come and go, and started working on a career. Basically, I went through everything you would think that had nothing to do with Rugrats. But then one day, while scrolling through streaming platforms, I got a taste for some nostalgia and decided to watch the show again. I saw new and interesting concepts in the show that I'd never noticed before. I saw the parents as peers, how I used to see Tommy and Chucky when I was a kid, and I started to really relate to what was going on in the background and between scenes. Each of the parents had something going on in their life, whether it was directly spoken about or not. If you haven't watched the show in a while or never noticed this before, let me walk you through some examples so you get where I'm coming from. And a little disclaimer, this show went through a lot of changes over time. There was the original, the movies, the All Grown Up series, and there is even a reboot that's been pumping out episodes. The characters obviously changed a lot throughout the decades, so I decided to try to only pull from the original series. I'm going to start the trip with the very first episode, Tommy's first birthday. The scene starts with the first-time parents Stu and Didi Pickles wishing their baby boy Tommy Pickles a happy first birthday. Didi picks Tommy up to change his diaper, and in the middle of doing so, some of the most realistic dialogue is going on in the background. Stu is talking about his passion for inventing, specifically his hoverama invention. Didi is really tuned into what she's doing and tuned out to what he's saying, and Stu is also tuned out to what Didi's doing. From what I've noticed with new parents or just couples around this age, unfortunately this can kind of be common. But I don't see it as malicious on either of their sides. In Stu's case, he's a brand new father and an inventor whose dreams and livelihood involves bringing new ideas into reality. He's learning to balance both of these time-consuming tasks in his new life. He's at that age where he may feel like it's now or never, and he has to go full throttle on chasing his dream. I can understand how something like that can distract you from what's right in front of you, because I've been there with countless things myself. Didi is probably going through the exact same thing, but with more immediate tasks. She's just had her first child and is focused on providing the best care for him. This is an around-the-clock job, which should be shared by both parents, and we see throughout the show that it is, but we also see that they have different ideas as to what that involves. We see throughout the show that Didi is a really by-the-book parent who is concerned about the development of her kid, but doesn't really ever trust Stu or her own intuition on parenting.
Lipschitz knows best, Stu. Now let's try it.
While Stu is kind of the opposite, always recommending old school or easy fixes to parenting. His approach is less analyzed and more shoot from the hip. Later in the first episode, we see Stu's desire to impress the family and friends at Tommy's birthday party with his new invention. He flails when the invention doesn't work on the first attempt, but recovers very quickly. Didi, on the other hand, is pretty stressed throughout the entire party and feels like any obstacle or issue reflects on her as a bad mom. We see Stu and his older brother Drew's sibling feud start with an improvised puppet show when the puppeteers don't show up. You can tell through the dialogue that this is a feud that's been festering since they were little kids.
Whiny little brat? Yeah, always breaking my stuff and then running to dad like a crybaby the minute I try to stop you.
They seem to have never really worked out their problems, something that can be pretty common in adult siblings, and in this case was made worse by them both being put in a situation where they have to perform together. Didi eventually helps them talk through their issues, which isn't a permanent fix, but it is growth. Throughout Throughout the series, Stu is pretty reluctant to accept advice from psychologists or therapists, but when he does, he usually has a breakthrough, releasing repressed memories and emotions.
Indeed, I think because of our experience with Dr. Lepetamine, we've learned to express ourselves.
The kids get Stu's invention going, but wreck the house and crash it into the cake, causing Didi to feel like the party's ruined. The kids then eat dog food and start barking and crawling like dogs. Everyone's arguing, but then they look over and notice the kids enjoying themselves. They start smiling and take a photo that then pans out, revealing a scrapbook of the mess and chaos that was Tommy's first birthday. This ending was a reminder that when it comes to kids, and really anything in general, it may not always go as planned. At the end of the day, the party wasn't about perfection or beautiful cakes. It was about Tommy and him enjoying the life he's had up to this point. The parents seem to have realized this and are happy that their kids are having fun, even if it has nothing to do with what they're planning for them. Throughout the show, we see Stu and Didi's relationship is pretty healthy, although they aren't always agreeing in the moment. You often see the guidance of child psychologist Dr. Lipschitz as a point of conflict between them. Stu could care less about what Lipschitz has to say, and that goes for the majority of the parents on the show. He sees the advice as surface and ineffective. He believes the man behind the advice knows nothing about raising kids. This turns out to be true, somewhat, as it's shown in the episode, A Visit from Lipschitz, that he's no genius when it comes to understanding children. I see this dynamic a lot in life now. It's so much information out there and people want to be good parents, individuals, employees, wealthy, etc. But sometimes get crippled or at the very least detoured by bad information. It sucks, but it seems like it's nothing new because it's such a big shtick in the show and the same concept is around today and will probably never go away. But at the end of the day, they're a young couple who's taking control of their new life. For me, a great moment that really showcases their relationship can be found in the episode Slumber Party. Angelica comes over for a sleepover with Tommy. She leaves a window open in their room, causing Tommy to catch a cold. The next night, we see Tommy is having a really warped dream where his family members are represented by characters in his mobile. He's woken from his sleep by Didi, who notices his fever, prompting Stu to spring into caretaker mode, calling the doctor and taking his temperature. They give the baby his medicine, and Didi suggests to play music for the baby using a radio under the pillow, obviously advised by Lipschitz. The radio's too big, so the alternative moment we get is a beautiful moment of an improvised lullaby sung by Stu and Didi.
Feel better tomorrow.
But this song you can borrow.
Nice, Didi.
Thanks.
This moment demonstrates when their child is in need, they'll be there to support. It's one of the sweetest moments in the show and really defines Tommy's parents. Next we have the other pickles, Drew and Charlotte. Drew and Charlotte are an example of the corporate, quote-unquote, successful parents. Charlotte is the CEO of a corporation called Megacorp. She's very bossy, and her outlook at work is anyone smaller deserves to be crushed.
A corporation is like a big hungry monster. My job is to find plenty of smaller, weaker monsters for it to eat.
She's often seen talking to her assistant Jonathan on her cell phone and very detached from whatever situation she's in. Her husband Drew is a big-time accountant. In the first season, he was the sole representative for the family unit, spending time with Angelica, picking her up and dropping her off at playdates. He seems like he has his fair share for a career workload, but he finds a lot more time to spend with Angelica than Charlotte does. Together, they created a pretty spoiled kid. The show paints it as they didn't give enough attention or time to Angelica. She grows up in a pretty fancy house with her own room and is an only child. Since Drew and Charlotte are often working, she is sent around to family and friends, as well as Charlotte's assistant Jonathan. Part of me finds it hard to believe that these two business-minded adults wanted a kid in the first place. Seeing how they're both so passionate about their careers, it's not uncommon for couples like them to wait longer or not have kids at all. I love seeing their moments in the show. It feels like a reminder about timing when it comes to starting a family. Timing has such a big impact, and most often, it's the kid who feels it the most. So we've had the middle-class endearing parents and the workaholic semi-neglectful CEO types. But let's get into a harder to describe set. Betty and Howard DeVille are a very polarized couple. Betty is very headstrong, assertive, and rough overall. She's heavily into sports and even spent some time doing pro wrestling. She wears workout gear and a sweatshirt with a symbol for female on it. Howard is often seen as timid and quiet. He's the one who does the household work like cooking and cleaning, while Betty brings in the dough. Their relationship as parents is functional, but Betty is very much the one who leads and controls everything. In fact, Howard is so uninvolved that he's rarely ever in the show. In the new series, Betty is a lesbian and single mother, and Howard hasn't made an appearance yet, which honestly isn't too far off from the original. As a kid, I never read her character as lesbian, and I don't think she was technically supposed to be a closeted lesbian in the original. Regardless, she's an icon to a lot of communities, and her character is interesting to look at in today's current society. They raised two twins together and managed to keep them under control for the most part. As far as parenting goes, they're doing a great job. Personally, I think Howie's a great idea for a character that could have been used more throughout the show. His more friendly personality comes through really briefly in the episode Chucky's Bachelor Pad, where he can be seen dancing and having fun with the dads as they reminisce on being single men with a bachelor pad. I don't know if he wasn't liked by the writers or the viewers or what, but I feel like they dropped the ball in exploring the dynamic of his and Betty's relationship more. Ah, the Carmichaels. Randy and Lucy Carmichael are the model parents. Randy is a writer for the hit cartoon Dummy Bears, a show the kids love possibly as much as Stu.
Randy Dummy Bear Carmichael? It's an honor, sir. A real honor. I just love your show. Gee, thanks.
He's got a dream job, but is pretty jaded to the attention and perks that it brings. He seems like he just enjoys writing and being a family man. Lucy is an all-around scholar and artist as well as a mother. She's a Harvard graduate, doctor, commercial pilot, singer, pianist, and even served in the Peace Corps. They are the oldest parents on the show, excluding the grandparents. This probably allowed them the time needed to get their parenting style down. Together, they have 4 kids in a well-maintained household. They represent the idealized family and what it would look like to be highly successful and accomplished but still present for your kids. Although their role in the original series as well as the movies was pretty limited, I enjoyed the moments that had them. Last but not least, we have the Finsters.
Chaz Finster, bureaucrat, bachelor.
Chaz is Chucky's father. His wife Melinda passed away when Chucky was just an infant. Not much is known about her aside from her brief clips. We do know that she was an avid gardener, planting and keeping beautiful flowers. We also know she was hospitalized for an extended amount of time before her death, evident by the amount of pages filled out in the diary she started keeping while she was in the hospital. After her death, it was just Chaz and Chuck toughing it out. Emotionally, Chaz was going through a lot throughout the show. He's missing Melinda, even going as far as attempting to hide a box of her belongings away at Stu and Didi's house so he and Chucky don't see it anymore. He's also worried about Chucky's development without a mother, which is fair, because we see it hasn't been easy for Chucky either. There's moments in the series we see Chaz reaching out for help, trying his best to provide the motherly touches for Chucky. Eventually, we get the Rugrats in Paris movie, where Chaz meets, falls in love with, and marries a woman named Kira. Kira has a daughter named Kimmy, who becomes a regular in the series. The two of them move to the US and live with Chaz and Chucky, creating one big happy family. Now I know the original series is lighthearted overall, but the Finsters family storyline can really get the tears flowing. If I'm remembering correctly, the creators never wanted the show to get serious with moments like this. After all, it is a kids show. I can see where they're coming from, and as a kid, the Mother's Day episode tugged at my heartstrings a lot. And the song I Want a Mom That Will Last Forever in the Rugrats in Paris movie used to have me bawling as a kid. But as an adult, it gives the show extended life. Like those other shows that have adult jokes hidden in them, I feel like I can still go through the episodes and pick out relatable moments. For me, I think the parents in the show will become even more relatable as I have kids and experience more of that part of life firsthand. But in the meantime, I'm just glad to be able to genuinely enjoy this show. That's going to do it for this video. I'm looking to get more consistent, hopefully putting out 2 videos a week. And if you made it this far, take the time to drop a like and subscribe. It helps the channel and keeps you up to date on my videos, and it makes me happy. See ya!